Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is contractor scheduling. As soon as we get a property under contract, I start to book all our contractors. There is no reason to have only one trade working at a time. For example, when the trim team is finished on the first floor, go ahead and start your painters there while the trim is getting finished upstairs. Early on, I learned that contractors do better when they know the schedule for all trades. On our projects, we post a calendar near the front door of the property so my contractors know who is working each day. My painter loves to go before flooring because that saves him time in taping down floor coverings. He can see that the flooring is going to be going on a certain day, so he needs to be out of that area of the property before then. The flooring guys can see that the countertops are getting installed on a specific day, so they know to do the kitchen and bathrooms opposite those dates. So, when your contractor schedule is organized, it can make the entire project run so much smoother. Now, on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have with us Zack Boothe. Zack is the host of Driving for Dollars Mastery podcast, where he shares his insider secrets to finding massively discounted properties regardless of experience level. Zack went from a successful window cleaner to an even more successful millionaire, millionaire real estate investor. With his constantly growing business, he now spends his time helping others see how simple it is to make money in real estate. Zack built a dream team real estate business, and he's here to show you how you can too. I hope to be as cool as this guy one day. So I'm excited to welcome Zack Boothe.
Thank you so much, Jen. Thanks for having me. I hope your audience understands how cool you are, because I just met you and you're so fun. When Jen's intro's playing, it's like, we're going to bestow badassery. And she's like, that's me. You know,
I'm actually wearing a t-shirt that says bestower badassery. I just paid for the damn trademark on this thing. So I'm flaunting this shit everywhere I can. So,
oh my goodness. You remind me of my aunt, Dorothy, because how fun she is, you know, like everyone loves her. She's always the light of the party. You know, I assume it's the same in your life. You're always the fun one.
She must be beautiful, I'm sure. So
she's amazing.
Well, welcome, Zack. I can't wait for this one because you are also a fellow podcaster, and I love talking to other podcasters because you sound so good with your equipment and everything. It's not talking to someone on their iPhone. I'm like, oh, so you're like, hold on, let me get my microphone on. I'm like, ooh, listen to that voice. I love it. So you are a window cleaner. Can we just start there? What? Like on the sides of buildings and stuff?
You know, I never did high risers. I contracted those out. I'd get the contracts and get paid and whatnot. But there was like two niches that I found. If I paid for workman's comp for high rises, it would price me out of the lower stuff. So my main niche was 35 feet and lower. Okay. Was where my workers' comp. So I did lots of crazy stuff. Honestly, the ladders are more dangerous than the lifts and the chairs. But yeah, it wasn't the most exciting thing in the world.
But I bet you saw some great stuff.
Well, and I had, from the outside looking in, it was really successful. I ended up on the History Channel. I had some window cleaning tutorial videos with millions and millions of views. And you guys can still find me. Just look up like window cleaning ventures, and you'll see me washing windows as a young man with millions of views, like 20,000 comments on one video. It's pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, it was something that I did for a decade, and wow. It was a good stepping stone. It was, but it's not real estate. That's for sure.
So how did you get involved in real estate?
Well, it wasn't an overnight thing. I bought my first investment property in my early 20s. I was almost 22. I think it was in 2012. No, I was 22. So it was 2012. I bought a duplex. I was recently married. And I had read Rich Dad, Poor Dad when I was 14. I grew up working. So I was like, I want to get into this. I was washing windows at the time. And I was like, okay, like, how do I get into like building wealth? Because I was paycheck to paycheck. I had a bunch of employees and a bunch of trucks, and I was doing a bunch of money, or washing a bunch of windows, but my profit margin was so low. It was just, I was struggling financially. Really, I was. So I bought this duplex, lived in one side, rented the other. My monthly payment was like $450 a month, and I rented the one side for $750.
Nice.
Yeah. So I was like, heck yes. Like, I got a really good deal as the banks were unloading their foreclosures after the 2008 drop. Mm-hmm. And so it was just a good time, honestly, if you could get the financing. And it was my first time buying a house. I got first time home buyer grants and all sorts of cool things that made it easy for me. But then when I wanted to do it again, that's when I hit the obstacles, right? The down payments, the debt to income, all those other problems.
Exactly. So we're going to be talking about driving for dollars, which is a technique that I teach my students. A great way, if they don't have, a ton of money up front, they can be very specific about who they market. So let's dive in. I want to hear how you do your driving for dollars.
Yeah. So it's evolved with time, right? So I learned about wholesaling, right? Flipping contracts, no debt, no risk. And I was like, okay, that's my entry to buy and hold. I'll cherry pick the best ones and sell the rest. I was like, this is amazing. I'm so excited. And this was 5 years down the road after buying my first one. I hired a mentor, and about a month and a half later, I did my first deal. Right. And I was just pulling normal lists that you can get for free from, county recorder's office and in state courthouse buildings, and where they hold these public records. And I'd go fight and, argue with the secretaries to get the information. But then in the very beginning of 2018, a lot of these places that I was pulling this public information, and it was a hassle to do so, they made all those lists available on a state website that you could pull week to week. It was updated weekly. Oh. So now everyone's marketing to that list because it was so easy to get. So I had done in that first that first 8 months of learning about wholesaling and hiring the right coach. I mean, it wasn't just the first time hearing about it, but once I got the coach that actually gave me the right steps, I did about 113 grand. And I had walked away from window cleaning. I'm pinching myself. I'm like, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. No more window cleaning for me. And it was so cool because, I at that point I had a little boy. And I remember that when he was born, I couldn't even afford the medical bills. And I was mad at myself because I was worried about how am I going to pay the medical bills instead of being present in the moment into such a special time in my life. And so, real estate wholesaling was more than just making money. It was allowing me to be the dad, the father, the husband that I wanted to be. Right. And I had so much emotion and insecurity about who I was and what I was capable of. And real estate helped me so much with all of that. And then, at the end of making 113 grand, this, marketing channel I was using is now public records. I didn't do a deal for 2 months. And so I'm like, crap, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And I thought I came up with the idea. I'm an idiot. Driving for dollars has been around forever and ever and ever. But I was like, how do I find a list no one else has? How do I have a list that I own that no one can take from me or make it not public records, or that they get the list and compete with me? And I was like, well, most of the houses that I did, they have physical signs of neglect, right? Because the property's a thorn in their side. They want to sell it for speed and convenience. And if that's the case, I can see the physical signs of neglect. So I started driving around and writing down the addresses and looking up the information on county records. I added like 70 properties into my first deal. It was actually like 78 or something. But I made somewhere around $6,800, $7,000. I can't remember the exact amount, but it was a very small list. So the profit margin, it was like straight profit. I'm like, okay, we're in business again, right? I'm not going to go belly up. We're going to figure this out. So I went to work. I learned about this new app called Driving for Dollars. The Driving for Dollars app. We use a different app today that's way better, but that's how I started, and it excelled and expanded, and I started hiring people to help me. But within the first 12 months of doing Driving for Dollars, I generated $500,000 in my wholesaling business.
Oh my goodness.
It blew my mind. It changed my life.
So what does this app do? I mean, so explain really what Driving for Dollars is.
Yep. So the idea is we got to find people that want speed and convenience. They want a pawn shop for their house, right? So usually there's physical signs and neglect on the house because the house is a thorn in their sides. They're not going to take care of it. There's going to be peeling paint. There's going to be dead yards. You're going to be able to see the majority of the houses that have the highest chances of selling for speed and convenience when they do sell. Right. Gotcha. So we drive around, we identify those houses, we find out who owns them, and then we reach out and see if they want to sell. Right. So it's just a way to find sellers, right? It's a marketing strategy. So with the way we do it now, instead of writing down the addresses and looking up the addresses and take 10, 15 hours to add 100 properties, now we're adding 100 properties in 1 hour of driving.
Wow. Right.
And this is possible because of an app. So today we're using an app called Deal Machine. So if you download this app, you can get a free trial if you use my discount code PIN, PIN. So if you download this app, once you open up this app, there's a few things. I just created a video actually today on using this app properly and giving you guys my exact Driving for Dollars criteria. So check out my YouTube channel. But you can basically have a Google Maps image, right? So if you guys have used Google Maps on your phone, you can see where you're at on the map and you can see the houses around you, right? Well, what you can do on this app is you can touch the house with your finger on the app, and it'll take all of the information and upload it into a beautiful little Excel spreadsheet for you. It's going to give you the name of the owner, their address, the property address, the phone numbers, emails, everything you want, right? So I can go through and go click, 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 and have 4 houses with all of the information ready for me to reach out and talk to them. So I'm able to build a giant list in just a few hours. And it's allowed me to go from doing a few deals here and there to making $1 million a year using this strategy.
Wow. And I got to tell you, I have used Deal Machine in the past. It was probably around 2017 when I first started in this business. And you would drive around, and actually at the time you took a picture of the house. And I got to be honest, I felt like a creeper because I'm driving through neighborhoods and, there's cars behind me like, lady, get out of the way. And, I'm holding up my phone, taking pictures of the house and everything. But the reason how I found this app was we had a property that we had purchased, and anyway, it was sitting for a little bit longer than what we had liked in the beginning. And we got a postcard with a picture of the house that we, had bought to renovate on the postcard. I was like, oh my gosh, that is the coolest thing ever. So, have you ever run into any problems though? Like, taking pictures, kind of, idling in front of someone's house?
Yeah. So when Deal Machine, about that same time, Deal Machine had me speak at an event, or not Deal Machine, but one of my friends and my mentor actually had me speak at one of his live events in 2018 on stage. And I was talking about Driving for Dollars. So it was my first full year of doing it, almost first full year. And I had made almost $400,000 at that point with it. And David Lecco and his business partner, Josh, one of the founders of Deal Machine, were there. And so they bought me dinner, we talked, and I found out you had to take pictures to add properties. At the time I was using Driving for Dollars. I said, David and Josh, I'll promote the app and I'll use the app, but I need it efficient, right? I need route tracking to know where I've been and when I was there. I need to be able to know which houses I added on the master map. And then also, I don't want to stop and get out of the car and take pictures, right? Like, no.
Get off my lawn.
It's super inefficient. And I actually have split tested postcards to have the picture of the house and not have the picture of the house. And you don't get any more deals. You get more people that call you and are pissed off. Like, why are you taking a picture of my house? But you don't get any more conversions, right? So you spend more money per postcard, you get less properties per minute, right? Per hour. And so you really just throw away a ton of money. So I told him that. I was like, you guys need to have a version where you can just touch the house. And so you're driving through the neighborhood. So we don't have as many people now that have, run us down or got mad, but yes, it does happen to us. We have the cops called on us. We have crazy neighbors that'll chase us down and be like, you're casing our neighborhood. What are you doing? But yes, getting out of your car and taking pictures, you're going to get some crazy people after you. I guarantee it.
Yes, I do remember those days. And another cool thing about the app though, like say you still have a full-time job and you want to get involved in real estate, and you can have people on your team to like use your app, correct? And they can be out driving. So you can ask, an Uber driver, hey, if you happen, who's a friend of yours, if you happen to be out and about, and you see properties where like the mailbox is overflowing or the grass is really, really tall or something where it looks neglected, if you take, if you capture on the phone. So you can do that with the app still, correct?
Yeah. And it's really cool. Like one of the things that Deal Machine has in place is you can have your driver hit start, drive, and end drive. So even if you hired someone at an hourly rate and you're like, okay, I want you to drive this many hours, you should be adding this many properties per hour. And this is the areas that I want you to go work, right? Well, they can hit start, drive, and end drive, and it's going to highlight the streets that they were on. You're going to be able to see the houses that they added. So you can go and check just 2 of the streets and make sure they added the correct criteria. And then on the analytics of your desktop version, you're going to see the drive, how many addresses, how many miles they drove, how many hours they drove, and really be able to monitor them, which is awesome because when I first started and I hired people to go drive for me, they would lay in their bed and they would go click, 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 add 500 houses and be like, I worked 15 hours, bro. Give me my check. And then I sent all this marketing to garbage and I started getting leads coming in, $1 million houses. Like, what in the hell is going on? Like, this is not done right. And so I've thrown away thousands, tens of thousands of dollars really trying to perfect this and getting the right systems and tech in place. And Deal Machine's been look at this. I have a Deal Machine mug on my desk right here.
How lovely.
Yeah.
Well, that is great to hear that you helped to transition that app because it was a little like, stalkerish, I felt when I was doing it. But great to hear that it's come a long way. And, I coach for Homeschooled by Tarek El Moussa, and they have had speakers from the app, talk to our students as well. So it is definitely very well liked and well respected. So you're making all this money, I hear these stories all day long about people saying, oh, I started wholesaling and then I made 400,000 in the first year. I think that's what you just said, or in the first 6 months or something. So, what about the people who call BS on that? Like, have you done anything to prove them wrong? Like, how are you proving your systems here?
Yeah, well, the big thing is like, I wouldn't care if they believe me or not, if my focus was just to make me money. Like, and I don't get on these shows just to be like, wow, look at me. I do this to serve and help other people. So I kind of give a background of why I do that before I tell like some free content of me going out and doing it live in person. You guys can watch it for free. So you might be like, oh, like one thing I hear all the time, if you're making so much money for this, why do you teach it?
Right.
And it's like, fair enough. I was a skeptic too. Right. And so I never planned. I never had intentions of being a coach. I never planned or had the intentions of being in the spotlight. It just kind of happened. So what happened was that year that I made about $500,000, which was my first full fiscal year. So it was, month 8 through month 20 of being in wholesaling. I made just shy of $500,000. And I did it from implementing this driving for dollar system and playing around with it, right? I thought I had tapped it out. I was like, there's no way in hell I'll make that much, if not more next year doing this. Mm-hmm. And so I had a good friend of mine that I had met at a live event. And he's like, Zach, like I found out about this new journal. Like, will you do it with me? Be accountability partners on it. I was like, oh, cool. What is it? It was called Living Your Best Year Ever by Darren Hardy. Right. And in there is the first 100 pages. You create 3 big goals. It talks about what you have to do to accomplish those things. And then the rest of it's the journal. So one of my big 3 goals was a financial goal. I wanted to generate $1 million. Wow. Put the goal down. I was like, I don't know how the hell I'm going to do it, but I'm going to try. Right. I'm going to double my business, even though I can't believe I did $500,000. So in there, I had to give away whatever I wanted to receive. If you want love, you give love. If you want money, you give money. So I'm like, okay, well, crap. Now I got to give away $1 million. Like, this is so counterintuitive. I was like, but I really want to take this serious. So I went to my wife and I'm like, babe, like, how do we give away $1 million? Like, will you support me? How do we do this? And so we were like brainstorming, and I was like, you know what? I know what I could do. I could teach this marketing system to 10 people, easily put $1 million in their pockets, right? Like, let's do that. So I went around, found these 10 students, people that were co-students of other programs, friends I'd made. I'm like, I'm going to teach you my system. So I'm going to be completely transparent. I'm going to teach you. It's all about putting money in your pockets. So I started doing that. And the funny thing is, the more I taught, the more I realized how bad I was. Like they'd ask, like, let me tell you one mistake, just one. Okay. He's like, Zach, I'm sending these postcards. And when people text the tracking number, it's not going into my CRM. So when they call, I'm getting the lead, but when they text, I'm not getting the lead. And I'm like, I haven't seen a text in 1 year.
Oh my goodness.
So I have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of leads that went down the drain because I didn't get the text messages transferring over to my CRM. Like, that was just one of my mistakes. Like, I promise there's just as many bad things, right? So like, I'm kicking myself, but I'm so grateful. I'm fixing all these things, and they're asking me questions that I never even thought of. And they're helping me perfect the marketing system at the same time I'm putting money in their pockets, right? So by the end of that year, I did 1.2 million.
Whoa.
I was blown away. I was ecstatic. I was on cloud 9, but more important than all of that money is I found my calling. I freaking love helping people. When you see someone get their first deal, when you see them make life-changing money, it's like doing it for yourself all over again. Right? I tell people all the time, your first deal is exhilarating. Second deal is proof of concept. Third deal is a lot of work, and you don't remember your fourth. Right? It's just transactions after that. Right? But every time a student does their first deal, it's like me doing my first deal.
Yes.
And so I fell in love with it. So then I became obsessed with coaching. I'm like, gosh, dang it. Now I got to completely transition and automate this so I can keep paying the bills and grow this coaching business and help people. And so that's been the journey that I've been on the last 3 years of my life. And I still have a wholesaling business. You know, I still have a team that does it all. I don't have to do much. I sit and look at the financials. I spend 5-6 hours a week, maybe on this business, but we'll generate about 2 million this year from that business. So we have this amazing business. We're in Tampa, we're in Utah, and just doing amazing things. And so, you know, this is a long way to answer your question. Okay. So let's get back to the question. I'm sorry. I ramble. I get so excited about this stuff. So you asked me, you said, so what do you say to the skeptic?
Right.
Well, it's like, well, first off, I understand you. I was a major skeptic. When I heard about this crap, I said, BS. If you're making so much money, why are you teaching it? Like, no way. So I was like, okay, well, first I have to overcome that obstacle, that belief, that mindset that it is possible, because they don't believe that it's possible. They'll never try. Right? They'll never go for it. They'll never, or they will never sign up for my coaching program. I'll never be able to coach and serve people if none of them believe it's possible. So I'm like up late. I'm like, how do I fix this problem? How do I help people believe? And it's like, well, seeing's believing. If you see someone live in person, making it happen, you see the checks being cashed, you're going to be like, okay, it's real. Like, I want a piece of this too. And so that's what I did. I was just in Utah at the time. I wasn't doing it in Tampa. The only reason I do it in Tampa is because of this challenge. So I was like, okay, well, let's fly to the other side of the country. So I have no connections. I can't use my team. It'll be 100% just me. And I get my smartphone, my car, and $1,000. And the goal was to turn it into 40 grand in 40 days, which is the average American income. And I was going to do exactly what I teach my students. I was going to use Driving for Dollars, use the Deal Machine app, and I was just going to go ham. I was going to work my butt off, and I was going to make it happen. I announced it and told everybody about it before I even did it. I was so nervous that I was going to fail. It was like starting my whole journey
sweaty.
all over again.
I got sweaty. Oh my goodness.
I was terrified. So, and I made major sacrifices to make this happen. I mean, I knew I was going to have to work crazy hours because I'm still coaching. I'm still kind of looking in on my own wholesaling business, and I'm starting a whole wholesaling business from scratch, bootstrapping this thing with $1,000. And so my wife's from Brazil, and she went to stay with her family with my kids for 30 days. So I was making this huge sacrifice to not be with my family that I love more than anything in this world to create this content for everybody. So I went to Tampa with the goal to make 40 grand, and it was an incredible experience. And I'm just so glad I did it because it turned out awesome.
And you made 40 grand in 40 days.
I made 93,000. Yeah. I made a lot. Well, I actually made much more than that because that's just what I wholesaled. So I sold. So I got 3 contracts and passed the contracts off for a finder's fee. Okay. So that's how I made 93 grand, 0 risk, 0 debt.
Mm-hmm.
I actually picked up 2 properties as rentals. And if I turned around and sold them the next day, I would make about $110,000 on top of it.
Wow.
But they were such good deals and they were completely remodeled that I was like, yeah, I would like these 2 as rentals. I was like, I accomplished the goal. We'll keep 2 rentals. So I completely blew my own mind. I did not think I'd be that successful. I feel extremely grateful that I did. I definitely feel like God played a part in it. As silly as that might sound, but yeah, it was an incredible experience. And I remember before I left, I prayed, I said, God, please allow me to find like one person that will sell their property. Like, it's okay if I don't make the 40 grand. Like, it's not about my ego. Like, I really want to serve and help people. And on the day 4, if you guys are used to watch one day of the challenge, day 4 was incredible. Day 4, the heavens opened and the money was raining. I got, just that day, I cold called a bunch. That day I got 5 contracts from that day of cold calling. I signed 3 that night and 2 more over the next couple of days, but I generated leads that turned into 5 contracts. It was absolutely an incredible experience.
I'm telling you, I really did start sweating when you're like, I announced that I was doing this, and like, oof, if it didn't, go through. And look at you even surpassing your goal. I love that. So what is the secret sauce to like the point of doing this, turning $1,000 into $40,000 in 40 days requires what?
Well, obviously the right action steps.
Correct.
Right. There's a few things that I did, and you guys can watch and see the exact action steps. I'm a completely transparent, open book. I'm not like, well, if you want this little secret, you got to buy my course. I say, this is what you do and this is how you do it. Right. So the action steps are important, but the other thing you guys got to keep in mind, I worked my ass off. Like, There's no shortcut. There's no, let's get around not having a work ethic. The work ethic is required. Right. I remember there was a 4-day stint that from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed, I was on a cold calling platform, cold calling people for 4 days. I did not step outside for 4 days. While I was cooking and eating, I was cold calling. While I was cold calling, I had another screen open, messaging people and texting people and sending emails and working with my team and working while the dialer was running. Right. I worked so hard to make that possible. And, I don't think I have more of a work ethic. There's a lot of people out there that work as hard as me, if not harder than me, but they only make $40,000 a year. So a combination of you got to work really hard and you got to have the right action steps.
Perfect. And thank you for saying that, because there are people who spend thousands and thousands of dollars for education programs, and they are handed all the tools to do these things. And so you took those tools, put yourself in an area where you had no connections, no anything, and still made it work. And that was because you put all the action into that. I love that. And what a great way to teach people and to convince them that this is how it's done. So how can people listen? What the name of your podcast again?
Yeah, so my podcast is Driving for Dollars Mastery. I mentioned the 40-day challenge and a few things, but mostly it's guests and what they did and how they had their success in different channels besides Driving for Dollars, but it's mostly people that are crushing it with Driving for Dollars, just driving my point home, right? It's the best marketing channel ever. But if you guys want to watch that 40-day challenge, I have a special link that you can go get it and watch it for completely free. So it's dfdmastery.com/40 in 40. So that stands for Driving for Dollars, right? dfdmastery.com/40 in 40. And I'm sure you'll have it in the show notes for everybody.
I love it. Yes, absolutely. We'll put those in the show notes. And you heard me at the beginning of the episode talking about a badassery bestowment. Do you have a badassery bestowment you can share with the guests?
I think what most people, get stuck with when they want to get into real estate investing, they hear about all these strategies that they can do and make money on once they find a deal. Right. They're like, oh, I'm going to flip houses. I'm going to do buy and hold investing. I'm going to do multifamily syndications. I'm going to do, lease options, like all these, but none of that is possible until you have a discounted opportunity first. So the thing that I learned early in my journey, that real estate investing is actually marketing. It's not real estate, it's marketing, but our product or our service is real estate, right? And what we do with those leads is up to you and your goals, but the business is finding discounted deals.
Excellent and well said. And so besides driving for dollars, and do you have other forms of marketing that you do? Because I'm a big fan of ABM, always be marketing. So tell me all your marketing ideas and tips.
Yeah. So the always be marketing, maybe it goes in with what you say. We definitely have leads come in. We have method decontamination companies that send us leads for people that want to sell biohazard cleanups when there's dead bodies and stuff. So those are some of our crazy deals. Those come to us and we give them a commission. We have radio ads. I have 6 different radio stations.
Hold on a second. Let's go back to the dead bodies. Who's bringing you the houses with the dead bodies?
So there's I think we just Googled biohazard cleanups. And so the people, there's companies that they're licensed to go clean up dead bodies. So we got one last year and the guy got shot on the front porch. And so when we showed up, we're having to step over the blood puddle to look at the house. It was bad. Yeah. So yeah, but a lot of times when there's people that die in a property like that, it's kind of a mess and a crappy situation and they just want to be done with it. Right.
Wow. Okay. So dead bodies, and then what?
Yeah. So we've done deals off that. We've done. We have radio stations, right? So I'm. It's funny. I'll run into random people that I know, and they're like, "What's your name?" I was like, "Zack Boothe." She's like, "Oh, you're on the radio. You buy ugly houses." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." So I'm on the radio, and I've done PPC and Facebook ads. I have an in-house digital marketing company that helps us with a lot of that stuff, and then I have. What else are we doing and making money off of? That's our main channels right now that we're making money. We have some other lists that we get probate and evictions. And we do 1 or 2 deals a year off of them. They're not very big. But 80% of my revenue comes from driving for dollars.
Wow.
I'm doing all these things, but really driving for dollars is the foundation of my business.
Well, I appreciate you sharing all that. I actually teach about driving for dollars, and this just reinforces everything I say. Because, it's really helpful for someone who, instead of sending, lists out to all absentee owners in a county, all, tax delinquent people and things like that, where it can cost a lot of money and you're casting a really large net. This is just a great way to focus on those houses that look like they need help. And it's a great
highest return possible, dude. The postcards that I send to my driving for dollars list, I spend 11 cents to make $1. 11 cents. So think about this, guys. Let's say you have any business and you send your marketing out, and the money that comes in is 89%, almost 90% profit margin. Now you have 90% of your revenue to pay your team and everyone else. To pay my team, my acquisition team, my fixed costs. I keep 50% of that.
Oh my gosh.
50%. Right. So it's an incredible, strategy for sure.
Definitely. Well, thank you for sharing that, Zack. The second half of the podcast is what makes Zack Boothe a badass, which clearly you are a badass. And I use the acronym. So the first letter in badass is book. What is a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
So one of the first books I got when I was 14, I asked my dad, I was like, why are we mowing these lawns for these rich people, right? And he told me to talk to his rich friend. He didn't know. So his rich friend, I was like, he's not rich. He's got a beat up old truck. He's like, no, son, he's cheap, right? And he gave me Rich Dad, Poor Dad when I was 14. And that really put me on the path to being an entrepreneur and being in charge. So I love that book. If you haven't read it, it's an incredible one. But one of my favorite books that I have read that I've taken more gold nuggets out of as an adult and, in doing business and becoming who I want to become is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Mm-hmm. Absolutely love that book.
And you mentioned Hardy before. What's his first name?
Darren Hardy.
What other book did he read or write? Because I was like, Darren Hardy.
I know there's more. Should I Google it?
And I was like no, it's okay. I was looking on my bookshelf because I'm like, I've read Darren Hardy before. Anyway.
Yeah, I think he has quite a few different books.
Great author.
100%.
I know. I digress. Sorry. All right. The first A in badass is advice. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I think I'll give the best advice that I received when I first started on this journey. So my mentor talked about the importance of failing forward, right? And most people want to understand 100% of the process and the A through Z and what needs to be done. And they get stuck in this evolution of learning before they ever take action. And my mentor was the right mentor because he said, okay, here's the action step. You implement as you go. Right. And I think that it's very important that if you hire a mentor, you go, okay, these are my goals. Can you accomplish those goals? And what's the outline? Is there a step-by-step to get there? And so, it's progress, not perfection, implementing as you go, and earning and learning, as my uncle would say as well. So
I love it. And I suffered from imposter syndrome when I first started, and it took me 6 months. I'm like, I got to learn everything. So it is so true. This industry is definitely a learn as you go. And by the way, the book, I found it. It is The Compound Effect. Oh, this
Such
one was huge. People always talk about the one thing. Sorry, Mr. Keller, but this book right here, The Compound Effect, was huge. All right.
Yep.
The D in badass is drive. What drives you to be successful?
For the longest time, it was pain, right? It was when I was 16 years old, I grew up pretty poor and I had all these jobs before I was 16. And when I was 16, my dad cut me off financially. He said, you're a man now. He was raised way rougher than I was, but he said, you're a man now. I'll pay for your housing and your food. The rest is on you. He wouldn't even co-sign a loan to get a truck. And so, working was required at a young age. And I went without a lot and it sucked. It sucked to feel like I didn't fit in. I got made fun of a lot, I was about, my own stuff, and I was really frugal, and, it was hard for a long time. I didn't feel like I fit in for a long time. And, the pain of feeling like I was failing as a husband, as a provider, as a father, it sucked. That was a major driver for me, the pain and the feelings of insecurity. And as I found a lot of financial success, like I could retire today, I could, very much so. And what drives me now, though, that I found financial freedom is actually the fulfillment and the joy of growing and watching other people grow. Right. I found that work can be so fulfilling because you grow. And I found that one of the things that make human beings happy is seeing progression and being proud of who we're becoming and who we have to become to hit a goal we've never hit before. So I think now it's more of a joyful thing. In the beginning, it was definitely pain.
Well, so well said. And thank you, because I get to interview people like you and connect with people through my podcast. And what a gift you have. And I see it exuding from you that you just truly enjoy giving back. And yes, I get that. I see it as amazing. The second A in badass is aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what is a goal Zack is currently working on?
I have a few. I mentioned one of them, though. We'll just talk. We always have lots of goals, right? I have
always
a big fat goal board. One of my big goals around the real estate wholesaling investing business is to generate $2 million this year. This will be the first year that I will net in my pocket profit after everything, $1 million. I want to not only increase that, but I want to increase my net worth by over $1 million this year, as well as, increase the passive cash flow within my wholesaling business by holding notes on seller finance and a few other things to over $40,000 to cover all of my marketing budget and fixed costs. So that's one of the main focuses for this year.
Awesome. And that is huge. And you can see my vision board behind me here. So I
love it.
Yes, I have to have it right across my desk so I can stare at that. All right. The first S in badass is systems. What systems do you have in place to help you achieve success?
Yeah. So one thing that I think is very essential that most people don't do, they kind of just get started and throw some marketing and hope and pray that it'll work. And then a deal comes in and they're not really sure how much they have to spend to get the next one. And they're just hoping and praying every day that they'll stay in business, but they have no clue what works and what doesn't work, right? They don't have a scoreboard. So I do what's called a KPI review. It stands for Key Performance Indicators. So what I track is exactly what my inputs are to generate leads. So how many addresses I add, how many text messages, how many cold calls, and how many postcards go out every single week. Then I track how many people respond, how many of those responses are actually leads, how many of those leads turn into an appointment, how many of those appointments turn into a contract, and how much revenue that is, right? And I track that week to week. Some weeks we don't have appointments, right, or contracts or whatever, but the running averages over a certain amount of time help me make decisions. So if I'm like, man, like I'm running out of money, this isn't working, I look at my running averages and I'm like, oh no, we're good. This is right on track. I just overspent on this or that, right? So making sure you're tracking what you're doing and what your outputs are, it takes all of the emotion out of it. And then when you replace yourself and start scaling and backing away like I have, you can put people in place and to do the work for you. And then that's how you manage your business without ever being there. Right? That's how I spend 4 to 5 hours a week in this, because I look at my KPIs and I'm like, hey, why didn't we go on appointments? Our appointment to lead ratio is way down. Tell the acquisition manager to step it up. Right? Like it's a very easy way to run my business.
Awesome. And have you found that it's like cyclical? Like sometimes you go in waves for like postcards, or, you know, like maybe phone calls do really well at certain times of year or anything like that. Do you see it going in waves?
Oh yeah, there's definitely, our fourth quarter is always the worst. Mm-hmm. Always the worst. Cash flow is a struggle in the fourth quarter. And I learned that in the first couple of years. And so I've prepared myself to have a little bit of reserves for my operating expenses. But, it doesn't really matter, because if you do the work in the fourth quarter, there's leads in the first quarter, and the first quarter is great. Right. So that's one of the main things. It's funny though, because we're like, man, these postcards are they're slow right now. We only get like a 0.02% response rate. 0.02, not 2%, 0.02% response rate. It's almost insignificant, right? Amount. But we made over $400,000 off postcards last year.
Right.
Right. And so the other day we're like, man, we haven't done a deal off postcards forever. Call comes in, he goes on the appointment, signs the contract. The next week we passed on the contract, $103,000. Right. And so it's like, aha. It's fine. Running averages will be all right. It's just staying consistent. And that's what I love about those, is like, there's zero emotion. It's just doing the work.
And, you never know. Someone gets that postcard in October, they throw it in a door, and they're going to call you the first week in January because now they're ready to sell. So definitely being consistent, and yes, it balances out. So thank you for sharing that. All right. The final S in badass is success. What does success mean to Zack?
I always told myself, man, when I get to here, oh dude, that's going to be it. I'm going to retire and go chill on a beach. And then I hit that and I'm like, wait a minute. Well, that sounds cool. I believe that success is progress, right? You are going to progress. And if you're not progressing, you're not going to be happy. One of the things that I've started doing, and I actually got this from one of my students that I've coached, his first deal actually was $113,000. Scott Dallinger. He quit his corporate job and was able to just go full time. He's in Portland, but he's super awesome. I've coached him one-on-one to build out his business. He's now doing hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Has a team that does it all for him. Just an incredible guy. If you're in the Portland area, definitely say hi to Scott Dallinger. But Scott showed me something really cool. He did a yearly review for me, and he went through and did a monthly business journal. And he did some of the problems that he had at the beginning of that month and what he's going to be working on. And then at the end of the month, he shared the successes and then the new problems. And so he shared like the progress of where he was at. And I was like, that's the coolest thing ever. And I started doing that. And it's, sometimes we get frustrated and are beat up in the grind. We go back and look at where we were 12 months ago and the steps and the progress throughout the months. Like, it is the most fulfilling thing. Right. And then on top of that, throwing in the teams that you built and employees and their lives that are being blessed because they're a part of your team. And then if you start helping and serving your community and seeing those things, like that is success. 100%.
Wonderful. Well, it has been such a pleasure speaking with you. And by the way, what nationality is your wife?
My wife's Brazilian.
Brazilian. Yep. I'm married to a half Guatemalan. And so he is super picky about his Hispanic food, shall we say. And next time you're in Tampa, you got to go to Ybor City and have one of their Cuban sandwiches. It is and it's like neither Guatemalan or Brazilian, but the Cuban sandwich in Ybor City. Have you had one yet?
I haven't been there.
Oh, it is a must. It is delicious. And I'm
Love
from
it.
Miami, which is AKA Cuba. So, yeah, I'm a connoisseur of the Cuban sandwich.
There's a ton of Brazilians in Florida too. It's like the hub of Central and South America for sure.
Yes, definitely. Again, such a pleasure having you on the show. One more time, how can my listeners find you? And I got to make sure I get those links for my show notes.
Yep. So dfdmastery.com/40 and 40 to watch the 40-day challenge. Podcast is called Driving for Dollars Mastery. And I'm everywhere. I'm on TikTok, YouTube, podcast, Instagram, Facebook. So really, if you just Google Zack Boothe, you'll find me wherever you want to find me.
Well, you are awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you, everybody.
Absolutely. And that is all. Thank you for listening. And we will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.